Welcome back to Buffalo Fireside Chats, where we dive headfirst into the trenches of the trading world. And yes, sometimes we hit a landmine. This is the first show of 2025, and we are leaving 2024 in the dust. We're not hitting the brakes. We're full steam ahead, baby. That's it. Our due diligence is getting stronger than ever. Grab your favorite beverage. It's time to lock in. Let's go. All right, today we got a lineup that's hotter than RJ's wing sauce. And actually, I want to give a shout out to all the winners of the RJ's wing sauce giveaway. You guys are the real MVPs. You know, I mean, who doesn't love it? Well, you haven't even tried it yet. And I'm telling you, this stuff is really, really good. Hey, by the way, if you're in the Buffalo area, the only place to get it is at Clark's Poultry and Seafood in Hamburg. So make sure you check it out. This stuff is delicious. I had some last night. And so those of you guys that won, I'm actually going to be shipping this out tomorrow. So be sure you don't have any of those porch pirates coming around taking any of your packages. So, like I said, I'll be shipping those out tomorrow. Let's talk guests. First up, we're going to have the one and only Nick Coriano from 3DX Industries. He's back to talk about ticker DDX. Following Nick, we're going to hear from Ryan Shadell over at Metavesco, ticker MVCO. He's got some exciting updates for us. In rounding out the guest list, we have the ever insightful investor, Jord Hugga, diving deep into the companies within the ILIS conglomerate. All three have graced us with their presence before, and I couldn't be more thrilled to have them back. Truly excited. Let's check out the chat. Bella, Jeff, Alicia, Jason LA, John Don, Lori. Good to see all of you guys. I want you to take advantage of this. Throw some questions about the OTC or stocks or whatever it is that's on your mind, even if you have a comment. If you want to make fun of us, have fun. This is what it's all about. It's building this community. So I'm just truly excited. Holy smokes, it's Tom Selleck from Magnet PI guest hosting. Jamie, what can I say? This is the look of 2025. So listen, I want you guys to keep it coming and just keep putting those comments in there. I see you're making me laugh, making me blush a little bit. I don't know. But before we get rolling, I got to mention the big game this Sunday. Yes, the Buffalo Bills are taking on the Ravens in the playoffs. Bills Mafia, are you ready? Who knows? Maybe I'll smash some tables and maybe for the big win. So
Baltimore Ravens forever! Lamar MVP!
Get out of here. Go. Shut the door. Idiot. I knew when that door opened, there was going to be trouble. Anyways, enough of this table talk. Let's get to it. VP at 3DX Industries, ticker DDX, Mr. Nick Coriano, and Ryan Shadell, CEO of Metavesco, ticker MVCO. Let's bring him in. Gentlemen, welcome back to Buffalo Fireside Chats. How are we doing today?
Good to see you, brother.
Fantastic. I wish I had as much energy as your son.
Same.
So I feel like that was scripted, if I'm being honest. I mean, it looked scripted to me.
I promised him a cameo.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, more power. You got to start him early.
He's lucky. Early. He's lucky.
Yeah.
I know. His friends are like, I can't believe he did that. That's all right. We make things work around here, right?
I think it's great, and I love the mustache. And yeah, Tom Selleck would be jealous. Sure.
So yeah, no, it's great to have you guys back. You two are some really consistent voices in the OTC. You're always sharing your advice. Whether it has to do with your personal opinions or the companies that you're working with, you guys are always putting information out there, and you're always accessible to the people that, are not just trading and investors in the companies that your respective companies, but people that are looking to gain some knowledge trading and just like become more intelligent when it comes to not just placing trades, but what to invest in and why to invest. So, and I know, Coriano, you're always putting out motivational X tweets. I can't say tweet. I could say tweets, whatever. But I want to thank you guys for taking the time to kick off this 2025 show with us. So thank you very much.
No, thank you, man. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
We're going to kick it off, and I'm going to turn it over to Nick Coriano from Triple DX. The floor is yours. Why don't you share some updates that you guys have going on and have at it?
Yeah, so I'll let you guys in on a few updates, three specifically. The first update, we're putting together a consortium, a JV, with another government contractor, a university professor, and a quantum chip computing company. And the four of us combined is going to really basically shortcut our path to government contracting. The government contractor that's part of the consortium is already on the GSA schedule, which will shortcut us to get on the GSA schedule. And the objective is to really get into the supply chain of quantum computing chips. So I'm not too familiar with quantum computing chips, to be honest with you. It took me 3 years to understand additive manufacturing. So I'm not going to try to be an expert there. But from what I understand, the supply chain is very limited in the United States. They're trying to bring the manufacturing process here to the United States. And from the conversations we had with the three other parties involved, it's more than just we need chips, right? To make these chips is a pretty complicated process, from material scientists to software engineers to hardware engineers. So the idea of the consortium is really to fast track ourselves on the government contracting side, and put our name in the bucket on the government contracting side. We started the government contracting arm a year ago. It's been obviously going a little bit slower than I would have hoped it to go, but this will hopefully shortcut us there and really bring us to the forefront. For the last 6 months, I've been working even deeper on government contracting. I put together an internship program here at Servitude for government contracting. I had 3 guys working on it all summer. And one of the things I found out is, number one, there's not a lot of government contracts for solely additive manufacturing. And the government contracts that are for manufacturing are really won by companies that can put together a ton of subcontractors. It's not just one guy or one company that's winning these contracts. It's usually a Boeing and a collective of subcontractors, or a Deloitte and a collective of subcontractors. So we're hoping that this consortium that we're putting together, that we'll announce in the next couple of weeks here, will fast track our government contracting efforts. So that's the first update.
And I'm looking real quick, and I want to follow up.
Yeah.
Is it Thailand, Singapore? I know it's out there in Asia. Who's the biggest exporter right now of those chips?
I want to say it's not Thailand, it's not Singapore. What's the country that they're always trying to invade, that China's trying to invade over there?
Oh my God, Taiwan.
Taiwan. Yeah, so Taiwan Semiconductor.
Thailand.
I think it's Taiwan Semiconductor is the company.
Yes,
and I think they make like 90% of the chips. It's incredible. Like they basically have
They've dominated the market.
Yeah, they have a monopoly on the market. So they're trying to figure out how to stop that monopoly. I don't know if that's going to happen, but to build the chips is not an easy process. This is why those guys have a monopoly on it. And one of the first objectives is to present to the U.S. government the consortium and tell them, look, we're a solution that could provide a supply chain for these chips. And like I said, we're just hoping that it fast tracks us on the government contracting side. The guys that we have involved that we'll announce when we make the announcement have over 25 years of experience in government contracting. They're already on the GSA schedule. So for those that don't know what the GSA schedule is, the GSA schedule is basically like you going to the government, and let's say you have landscaping services, right, to make it real simple for you, or human resource services. You basically tell them, look, the GSA schedule, right, we do landscaping. We're going to do it at $60 an hour, $75 an hour. If you're a CPA, we do CPA services at $200 an hour. Now you have a contract with the federal government. They haven't bought any of your services, but you legally have a contract. So when the government needs CPA services or landscaping, they can just go to the GSA schedule, find a contractor that's already submitted and qualified with the government, and just hire them instantly and get paid instantly through the government. So this consortium will fast track that, right? Because they're already on the GSA schedule, and it's something that we've been working pretty diligent on. It's one of our, the biggest avenue or highway, I should say, to scalability for government, for manufacturing. So we're really excited about that. So that's the first update, is the consortium. The second update is that we're in 2025 now. In January 2026, the lease is up at the manufacturing facility where we house our 3D print lab and our subtractive manufacturing. So January 2026. So we have a year. So over the next year, we're going to be looking at options to move the facility, to move the shop. I've been a big proponent internally about telling them not to rent. They've been renting. I think the rent is like $6,000-7,000 a month. It's a huge cash burn for us. On the side, for those who follow me, that they know I'm a real estate investor. I have commercial, residential, land, real estate, 5 states throughout the country. So I've been a very loud proponent of buying our own real estate. I think industrial real estate is a good investment right now. So over the next year, we're going to try to either, look to build out a new facility for 3DX or, buy out an industrial corporate park where we can put 3DX in and hopefully collect rents so 3DX can live rent free. So that's the next big kind of pivot at 3DX, right? Is there's a real estate play that's gonna brew over the next year. I don't know where it'll land, but I'm hopeful that it'll land with us investing in real estate, improving our balance sheet, and hopefully bringing in some rental income from industrial real estate.
And I was going to ask you about the rental income. So you probably would, like, if you're gonna do it, I would assume you would go big and make sure it's a facility that could accommodate multiple businesses. So that way you're turning over, that income, so you guys could essentially operate your business rent free.
Yeah, optimally, right? We buy an industrial park or build an industrial park where we're one of 10 tenants and the other 9 tenants are paying rent to 3DX, right? So we'd have that real estate on our balance sheet and then the cash flow coming in, so we wouldn't have to worry about that. That's the optimal situation. I don't know if that, if that comes to fruition, but we're reaching out to some industrial real estate investors, a couple funds, a couple landowners. There was actually a facility in Ferndale that was owned by another public company that went belly up. Now it's owned by Royal Bank of Scotland. No, I'm sorry. The Bank of Canada owns the facility. It's on a foreclosure. So we're reaching out to them to see if we can work out a deal. But yeah, optimally, we'd have a bigger, larger corporate park, right? A manufacturing park that is paying us rent and we can live there rent free.
Excellent. And so I wanted to go back real quick. I know you had one more thing to say, but I did want to talk about the GSA for a second because I was just looking it up. You're going to be squared away. You're not going to have to wait that 6 to 12 months holding then, because
correct,
that you're going to be able to bypass, because I'm looking at the process right now. It could take anywhere from 6 to 12 months. So once you get that complete, that's like, and that's an easy in there because the paperwork and all that stuff's already done.
Yeah, they're already in there. So it won't be under 3DX, right? But the consortium partner will update his capabilities under the GSA, and he'll be able to bid on manufacturing or additive manufacturing projects with the government and just put us in as a subcontractor. So yeah, I mean, the 6 to 12 months was a big lead time, right, for us. And I didn't think we were making traction fast enough. And, it's good to have partners that are already there. Right, is kind of the idea there.
Absolutely. And there was one more thing that you talked about that we talked about this, and it really is so relevant because the next thing you're going to mention, it's not going anywhere, and this is rarely where we're headed. So go for that.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're an entrepreneur and you're not doing AI right now, you're probably way behind, in the game plan of things or in your traction. But it's something that I'm definitely focused on. And in the same vein, robotics is something that's not new to the manufacturing world. They've had robotic arms for a long time, but internally we've had discussions, and I've committed to the management team to buy humanoid robots as soon as they come out. So I'm waiting for Tesla. And my prediction and my bet is that Tesla's going to roll out the humanoid robots the same way they rolled out their cars. And they're probably going to want a minimum down payment to hold a spot on their humanoid robots and then put you on a wait list. And as soon as that happens, I'd like to order 10 or more humanoid robots to put into our facilities. Now, the combination between AI and the humanoid robot, like I said, robotics is not new in manufacturing. They had the robot arms, right? And I think that humanoid robots today, you look at them and you kind of see them stiff and they're not moving as fast. But I think that, AI is, we had this conversation yesterday, just me and you, right? That AI is speeding things up, and it's not just speeding things up in content or development or robotics. It's speeding things up on the software side too, where the software engineers are now able to code faster because they're using AI to code. So I think that, the software in the robotics is really where the magic happens, right? The robots are all kind of already there. The robotic arms are already there. The humanoids are kind of already there. It's the software really that's going to make the difference there. And I think AI is going to speed that way up. And I kind of want to skip all the steps of having, the robotic arms and robotic legs and, some of these things, and just put the humanoid robots in there. That way we can become as proficient as possible in the manufacturing world and really train the robots to do all the work at the factory. So fingers crossed, if Tesla comes out with that hold period, which I think they will, like they did with all their other products where they put a minimal down payment down, we'll put the down payment down and we'll commit to having those humanoid robots in the facilities as soon as they're available. And then we can start training them on whether it's subtractive or additive manufacturing. It's not that important to me more than it is to have it there. So that's the last update. That's kind of more out in the future. We don't know where that's, how fast that comes or how fast Tesla puts those out. But I'm really committed to having those things in there first. That way we're the first company, right, that has those things in there. And as far as additive manufacturing, we can kind of lead the way there.
It really is an open book with you guys. And I know for many of you guys that have been following Triple DX, you want the share price to move. You're one of those low floats that is just sitting stagnant. And this is not an insult. This is just the market we're facing right now. Yeah. You know it and I know it. And so and I talked to somebody earlier. I was on a conference call and they said something great about building a business when the market's down, because you know what? You could surge in and you could grow into that bull run. And that's promising. So if you succeed now, that's promising for when things look really, really well, when there is a lot of capital, when there is a lot of funders out there, because really funding is dried up and we've all known that. But thank you so much for sharing what you just did and stick around, because guys, I want you to put some questions for Mr. Nick Coriano in the chat. Make sure they're good ones. All right, we're going to move on to Mr. Ryan Shadell from Metavesco, ticker MVCO. And I got to say, the Boring Brew's gone. It was very, very good. And I enjoyed doing that review. It was the most tasty review I've done.
Isn't it great?
I'll say that. It is very good.
Yeah. We consume, I have a large household, so probably 2 bags a week we're going through quite a lot. But yeah, it's really good stuff. Before I get started on my thing, I actually had 2 questions for Nick, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure.
I am a 3DX shareholder, by the way.
Love it.
A very small amount. Okay. And I have been for a long time. Are you using a platform or any type of vendor management service to onboard and manage the subs for the GSA stuff you're going after? No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Is there something you'd recommend?
It's in our wheelhouse. I'm in the staffing, I'm a staffing veteran. I'm back in the industry. I was out for a while, but yeah, VMS is, they're a dime a dozen. But specifically like the industries you want to service. If you want to talk offline, I can certainly recommend a few. Most of them are
we have a Go High Level as a CRM, but we get approached by, probably 20 companies a year with software for vendor management. But we haven't pulled the trigger, but yeah, I'd love to have that conversation.
Yeah, sure. There's, there are a few out there. Like I said, it's real industry specific where they focus on certain industries. Like for us as a staffing company, our staffing division, Epic Labor, we have a client there in hospitality, and the VMS they use to source contractors, suppliers like us, is almost, I don't want to say exclusive, but almost exclusive for hospitality staffing. So, they've got probably 50 different staffing companies on there. The client will put out, hey, we need 20 banquet servers at, whatever stadium or wherever. And that order goes out to all the different, vendors that have signed up. And so for what you're trying to do with GSA, it's all about scaling. And I have a lot of experience in that space. So I think it's, really great that you're going after that. Okay. But, if you need to scale up subcontractors, I definitely think a VMS could help you, at least in the short term. It might cost you a couple points, but it was just a question. And then for the uninitiated, additive manufacturing, just like, what is it?
So additive manufacturing is the process of adding onto pieces instead of taking away from pieces.
Pretty self-explanatory. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, kind of, right? So traditional manufacturing took a block of steel and chipped away at it till it was a little pen. right? And additive manufacturing adds on until the pen is created. So that's the difference. So 3D printing versus traditional manufacturing.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that business has a lot of future. I like where you're going with the robots. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Speaking of robots and staffing and labor and all that stuff, Metavesco. So we've got, currently, I want to say currently because things change fast around here. We have basically three businesses: Bitcoin mining, which is our kind of the center to our flywheel. We've got our Boring Brew subsidiary, which is specialty coffee. It's on demand. You order it. It's roasted same day. It's shipped next day. By the time you've got it, it's like 2-3 days maybe roasted. So it's super fresh. And then Epic Labor, which I think is probably in terms of scale and growth, I think it's probably the biggest opportunity. And that is a new development. That's our most recent acquisition. So I'm an industry veteran. I've been in staffing for a couple decades. Golly, am I that old? But I think that you're right. I think robotics will take away certain jobs or replace certain jobs. And I also think that the incoming Trump administration is going to remove a pretty good supply of their workforce. So if you're in the blue collar staffing, which is where I'm at, I feel like there's a huge tailwind coming. And that was kind of the gamble that when I decided to buy that business, it was kind of gamble that Trump would win. Okay. So, here we are. And I think that the blue collar staffing segment stands to gain the most out of all the various segments that make up staffing. I think IT will do well, but I think for sure on the blue collar end, that's where the largest growth will come from. And the last few years have been very tough in that space. There's been a lot of price inflation. Wages have gone up. Margins have gone down. There's been a lot of consolidation in the industry. It's not nearly as fragmented as it once was. But, so there are some operational challenges there. But I also think that there are less people to compete with in that space. And the ones that are there and there's a handful, I could say probably less than 4 that are national suppliers. They're franchise models. And I think for us, it's an opportunity to take market share. So, I think in terms of excitement, it's definitely Bitcoin. There's 100%, there's going to be a Bitcoin reserve. Okay. There will be a United States federal Bitcoin reserve. So right now it costs us, and it changes frequently. It costs us about $62,000 per coin to mine. And, we're not at a point where we can just hodl all of that, but I'd like to get us there. I think that a federal Bitcoin reserve is probably going to take Bitcoin prices. I think we'll have a $250,000, Bitcoin by the end of the year. But, and then of course, Boring Brew. So Boring Brew was kind of a foray into an industry I'm not very familiar with, but the connection was the Web3 part of it. I'm a Bored Ape Yacht Club member. And when we bought that business, it was like, the Bored Apes were kind of reeling a little bit, the price anyways, but the Yuga Labs has done a lot in that space. They created, a Made by Apes MBA, Made by Apes program, to help assist companies that were connected to the Bored Ape ecosystem. And the ApeCoin DAO, so ApeCoin is the token that was launched by Yuga, and they have a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization. So the ApeCoin DAO has, I don't know exactly the number, probably a couple $100 million worth of ApeCoin that they award and grant. I think probably in some cases loan or invest, but most of it's set up as grants. So we are applying for a grant through the ApeCoin DAO. And we're requesting a pretty sizable investment from them in the form of a grant to actually have brick and mortar Boring Brew location. So that will be our newest thing. I think that we've actually submitted the draft. It's called an AIP, Ape Improvement Program. We've actually submitted that to them, and there's been, I don't know, a couple rounds of comments and questions. We've answered them. They've come back, and I think we're probably ready to see it. I think within the next 5 days, it'll be on the website, on their website as an official to be voted on by the ApeCoin community. So I'm super excited about that.
How many total do you think you're going to end up doing?
Man, I mean, I'm a scale guy. You can't make any money with 2 coffee shops, but I think you have to start with 1 or 2 coffee shops. 1 is not enough to really be interesting. Really, 2 isn't either. I mean, I think you need 8. 8's like the number for everything when it comes to scaling a brick and mortar type business. 1 to 6 is too small. I think once you get to 8, you're at a point where it's like, okay, you need multi-unit management. Probably 2 district type managers. The economies of scale can start to be seen there, but it's also you're still too small to really have any big gains in income, because your overhead goes up when you start hiring those multi-unit managers. But that positions you to really put the gas on expansion. So, we're going to start with 2. That's what our proposal is for. We want to start with 2 locations. And it is contingent on getting help from the ApeCoin DAO. We're relying on that funding to get us started with that. I mean, it's going to cost more than what we're requesting probably, but I think we have a pretty good chance of getting it. And the team is super excited about it. We've had some, I'm going to call them side quests. We did our Maga water. Okay. There's still some left. Not much, like maybe one pallet left of Maga water. It was fun, but it's a side quest, right? We're not going to build a multi-billion-dollar business on that, which is what we want to do. The coffee, though, I think that we can do something sizable there. It's brick and mortar, which is, Boring Brew, the brand itself is a Web3 brand. I feel like it's an opportunity for us to take the Web3 brand and just kind of take it to the people. It'll give us an opportunity to expose your average coffee drinker to Web3 IP. If you look at our packaging, it is very unique. It's fun. It's exciting. If you go down the Kroger coffee aisle, it's so boring. Sorry for the pun, but it's so boring. You walk down the Kroger coffee, you put a Boring Brew bag next to Folgers or Starbucks or Dunkin' or, we win. Okay. So I think there's a lot of fun stuff we can do there. I think in terms of dollars, for sure, the Epic Labor the division is going to be where it's at. Okay. And I think in terms of excitement and probably the moonshot would be Boring Brew. And the end game for us is to flywheel all of that into Bitcoin, whether we're adding it to our balance sheet, like Michael Saylor and a number of public companies are doing now, or mining it. I like mining it because it's cheaper than buying it. The challenge is, it's capital intensive. These machines aren't cheap. It takes a lot of money for power. So there's, probably a balance that we want to have where we're mining some amount and we're just buying and holding some amount. But, if we can build these Boring Brew, Epic Labor, any other business that we acquire along the way, I have no particular, thing that I'd be limited to doing. The company is a holding company. It is set up to be an investment company in other businesses and operate those businesses. So a lot of people say, oh, it's Metavesco, metaverse. Well, yeah, we have some metaverse stuff going on, but it's most effective tactic available, right? So, it's an exciting time here. And we've got a few other side quests. We were probably August or so, I think we were talking to Pixie Dezzuti from the Stripe Pig Distillery. We were going to acquire her business. And we just couldn't quite get there on the numbers between the two of us, right? So we're like, okay, well, what else can we do? And so she had the idea, well, we could launch a bourbon brand together. And I'm like, yeah, that's definitely a side quest, okay? And I have to be careful about too many side quests. The main quests are already pretty intensive. But she came up, between her and Eddie and Ray, that's the Boring Brew team, they came up with a really great concept for a limited edition bourbon. So basically what we would do would have probably 6 runs per year. Each run would be its own unique brand and its own unique flavor. And they came up with something really cool and catchy. We've been going back and forth with it for 2 months now, but I think that there's probably an announcement imminent on that. And again, it'll be fun. If it catches some steam, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. So we got a lot going on, man. It's intense. Putting in a lot of hours. It's a lot of fun. And, of course, hey, if you've been following along, we got our forward split done, which I think was like just a monumental achievement.
Congrats
have
on that,
FINRA
man.
approve a 100 for one forward split, which has never been done on the OTC.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so pretty wild.
The first couple days, you guys noticed an influx of volume.
Oh, it's insane. Yeah. Well, it was super illiquid. Okay.
Yeah.
Because people had shares that weren't, they weren't able to trade shares. And, once people, I think there were some people who probably had an average of like, trip 5, trip 6, pre-split. Like, wow, I'm up 300%. Let me sell some. Mm-hmm. And of course you see now, we're still up a little over 120%, post split. So, price wise, yeah, whatever. I think it's negligible. It's inconsequential one way or the other. When we're done building this thing, I mean, 000 whatever will be an afterthought. In my opinion, I'm not giving price predictions. I'm not saying go buy the stock today, tomorrow, whatever. I'm saying if we do what I believe we can do, price we're at is fairly irrelevant. Currently.
Yeah, I got some questions. I got some questions.
Go ahead.
Some comments.
4. The answer's 4.
I got a question too.
So one question is, I ran into I guess it was I don't know how to say it. It's called Work QAI, and it was a place to put your resume up, and the AI fixes the resume, and it kind of matches you with. So I'd love to make that introduction to you, the startup, and I don't know if there's something that you guys can do there.
You never know. I mean, it's never a bad idea just to make contacts in the space. You never know what can transpire.
Yeah, so I'll make the contact there because that was the first thing I thought of. But the question I had was, if you guys are going to open up the coffee physical locations or coffee shops, number one, are you thinking about the franchise model? So 2-part question: are you thinking about the franchise model? And then number 2, where would your ideal first 2 locations be?
Yeah, so I'll answer the second question first. The first 2, the first one will be in Miami, and the second will be in Medellin, which is like Honduras or Venezuela or something. I don't even know. It's somewhere out there. Ray's actually handling that one, and Eddie's handling the one in Miami. And we picked those locations because we have a beat already on locations and everything. So it was kind of strategic. I'm also so I live in Gainesville, Georgia. We're about an hour, 20 minutes outside of Atlanta. I mean, you could put 30 up here. You know what I mean? So if I think if those 2 start out really, really well, I would probably, it doesn't take a lot of money to get going. It takes money to stay going, in that business. I mean, almost any brick and mortar, unless you've got just a lot of equipment or a lot of build out, the big expense is how much money do you have in payroll this week? And, how much inventory do you have to fill? That's where your dollars go. And with that business, it's for sure, you'll spend $50,000 on build out, but your real expense is going to come from just maintaining staff and marketing. So, if those 2 start out real well, I would absolutely love to have something here in Gainesville and then just make our way down, 400 into Atlanta. I mean, like you could put 300, 400, not 300, 30 or 40 locations here and have localized regional management. That's way more cost efficient than being spread across the country, just in terms of scale. Right. But, we'll see how that goes. As far as franchise model, we have kicked it around, and there was actually, and I can't remember who it was, but there was someone within the Bored Ape community who said, I think it would be great if you had if you had a Bored Ape, you could, qualify for a franchise, but that would be like a requirement as part of, just, a kickback or a throwback to the community. And I kind of like that idea. Because it is, it's going to be very Bored Ape centric, right? Not just Bored Ape, but NFT, Web3, the whole space. But I mean, it's definitely centered around Bored Ape IP. But yeah, I think if we decided to do franchise, it would probably be something that was focused on the Yuga ecosystem and the participants of that. If you own a Bored Ape or a Mutant Ape or any of their NFTs, that would probably be a prerequisite. I think just to be part of the community. So again, another we'll see. I'm not against it by any means.
Yeah. I had a question. So you really think? By the way, I want to go back to the Bitcoin thing because I wrote this down. You do think 250,000 by the end of the year for Bitcoin?
I think 250 by the end of this year. And I'll tell you what, I know this. Look, These are conservative numbers. If you listen to some of these people way smarter than me on Wall Street, these are conservative numbers.
Should I ask the XRP number?
Oh God. Well, okay. I personally am not an XRP fan, and I know that's crazy, but I'm not. I've traded it a few times. I missed the huge run. Like I own something at like 40 cents. I'm kicking myself now. I'll be at like 8x. I'm just like Bitcoin or nothing at this point. I mean, I've owned just about everything you can own. I've traded everything. And there was a time where I was like hardcore love Ethereum. And I do think Ethereum is great. You can do some really cool stuff with it, but it's just too centralized. I want decentralization, and Bitcoin is the only one that really checks the box on that. And I've evolved, and you can go back and look at prior comments I've made. Yeah, I know, man. I know. I mean, look, the technology is great. I am a Hyperledger fan. Yes. The token itself, it's not for me. I'd rather just own Bitcoin. I mean, I'd rather just
right
own
on.
Bitcoin. Yeah. And I do own some other stuff. I mean, I've got, ApeCoin, which is, I've lost $1 gajillion on that, like personally,
Man.
I own, more junk than I can say. But Bitcoin, man, look, it's not the risk on Bitcoin is just zero. Yeah, it's got volatility. I'm not trying to trade it. I want to own it. I don't want to sell it. I want to buy it. I want to borrow against it, pay my bills with the money that I borrowed, sell what I need to sell to make my payments, and deduct the taxes, and I live tax-free the rest of my life, just owning the Bitcoin. And as long as it goes up enough to cover my annual, interest expense, then I think that's the way. So, yeah, I'm a Bitcoin maxi now. And my name's Ryan Shadow. I'm a Bitcoin maxi now.
You know what would make this conversation? By the way, guys, if you haven't, hit the like button and share the content. We have 232 people watching right now. Whether you're driving, no, don't do anything on your phone and drive, because I don't want to get in trouble for anybody getting in an accident, especially if you're in Buffalo. But hey, check out the merch store. By the way, the merch store, we only got it for about 2 more weeks. Merch store is closing. All right. I might do something else. Not sure yet. But I'm telling you, love the tumbler, love the hat. Get your BFC merch. It's going to be vintage one day. You're going to pass it on to your grandkids. I remember the BFC. No, I'm just kidding. But I think what would make this a little more lively, why don't we add some fire? Why don't we add Jord Hugga? Let's bring in Jord Hugga. Let's bring him in. Jord, welcome.
How are y'all doing, BFC? Nick, Ryan, E-Rock, Rob.
Jord, fantastic. We need you to change your profile pic so we know which one you are, because people just logging in right now are like, are these guys twins or?
Yeah, I constantly get mistaken for an ex-professional rugby player. It's just one of the things that happens to me. But I'm the guy on the left.
Excellent.
Now, I gotta say, and I want to take this to now, and I thank you so much for sharing what you have about your companies and your business ventures and all the things that you're doing. And I'm excited to keeping close communication with you guys, but I know Nick, you and I are working on something too, and as the year progresses, I'm really excited for what we do. But I will say, I want to ask you guys each a question. Actually, it's more like a question for the audience. What advice would you give? The last 18 months have particularly been grueling for some investors. What's some investment advice you can get, and you could talk about the cycles of the market or whatever you think that you could give the BFC community to sort of walk away from to start the year with? Ponder on that. And who wants to go first? Ryan, you want to go first? Go for it. The floor is yours.
Are we talking about specifically OTC stocks? Or are we talking about the market interlude? I want to be specific.
Well, I would like an OTC answer, but I'd also like basically your opinion on the broader markets as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The OTC has really struggled the last few years. Liquidity has dried up. There's no funding. You can't get funded. If you have a business, it's a very difficult place to just be. Okay. That being said, I think you have a situation where the cream can really rise to the top. I think your average trader, though, needs to decide, are they a trader or an investor? And if they're a trader, I really don't have much advice. You know, buy low, sell high, right? But I don't think traders are really going to make very much money relative to people who pick really good companies. I don't want to use the term good very loosely. Okay. I mean, it is the OTC. They're startups. Some of them are damaged, whatever. Right. I mean, just, you know where you are. But I think if you're an investor and you look at something that has potential, you buy a little, and you constantly reevaluate where it is. Like, you know, would I price aside, would I invest in this company again today? Like, you already own it. You fast forward 2 months, you know, price aside, would I still invest in this company today? Okay. And I think you're going to have 3 or 4 of those just crush it. Okay. The last 3 or 4 weeks, there have been a number of announcements where companies have come out with these huge mergers and acquisitions. And I'm just here to tell you that it's not real. It's not.
I love that tweet you put out, by the way, Ryan.
I'm not going to call the companies out because I'm not that guy. I don't want to be that guy. And if you want to trade that, hey, man, go ahead. You know what I mean? There's some good meme coins I can tell you about, too. Trade all you want. I used to trade a lot. So I've traded stuff. I didn't know what they made. They made me money. That's all I care about, right? You're not going to make 10x money trading that stuff. You're just not. It's not that type of OTC. This is not 2021 where you were going to make 10x trading some, you know, whatever deal. These deals you're seeing, it's smoke and mirrors. You're getting diluted into. They put the stuff there so they could sell you shares. And that is it. There is no $500 million business coming into those. I'm telling you, I've been around long enough to know. I've read the filings too, the things that I looked at. I'm not making this up just being a hater. Nope, I'm not, you know, Mr. Karen or whatever, but they're not real. Karen. I'm telling you now, they are not real. Okay. Now, there will be some real ones. There won't be $500 million companies. There's just no reason to bring your $500 million company to a marketplace that has no liquidity. Why would you have to be a moron? Okay. But there will be companies that will build up, maybe not 500 million, maybe not even 50 million. And the OTC 5 million in real revenue is a monster, in my opinion, because there's just not much out there that has it, you know, not real revenue. But there will be a handful of companies that come in and they build actual solid businesses and they communicate with the community. Okay. And you have to look, this is how I do it anyways. And I know I'm getting a little animated. I'm just very passionate about this. And to some degree, I get upset when I see these companies come in and I just know that they're fleecing the OTC community. And, you know, it's not like there's an endless supply of capital that people are bringing in, investing, you know, I mean, they have some dollars that they're putting in. It's not like they can just recreate more money, but these companies are just recreating more shares. Okay. So I think you need to be very careful about what you hold. If you're just trading it, fine, it doesn't matter. But if you're holding, you need to be can you call the company and talk to the CEO? If I'm interested in 3DX, can I call over there and talk to Nick? Can I pick up the phone and call? Hell, I can text him. I know I can. Those are the companies that are going to, yeah, maybe they're not trading now. And by the way, I think you guys should forward split the hell out of it.
I know you do. I know you do.
Hey, it's where we're trading. It's where we're at, baby. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I had the conversation with management, so we
look,
you know.
You
heard it here first. Nick Coriano's doing a forward split. No,
Look,
that was a joke.
Yeah, you don't go to the beach wearing a tuxedo. You don't go to the ball wearing shorts. All right, look, it's where we're at the beach, baby.
I got married on the beach in a tux.
Okay, well, you're the exception. All right,
it poured rain though. So who was the dum dum?
Of course, the guy hosting the OTC show does.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's my thoughts on it. I think there will be some companies that really do crush it, and there will be some really smart investors that will make a ton of money. But you have to have a checklist, and that checklist needs to be pre-written in stone. Can I talk to management? Can I verify they have a legitimate business? It doesn't matter if they're selling widgets or water or dildos. It doesn't matter. Can I verify they have something to sell? And if you can, I think to me, those are like the first 2 things. Okay, great. Well, it's real. Doesn't mean it will be $100 million business, but at least I know that it's real. And look, when you look through the filings, if you see And part of the problem is you're not going to see a bunch of toxic debt anymore because it's all gone, right? Like those guys are out of business. But these products, I've looked through the file, they're being structured in very overly creative ways that it's toxic. It just doesn't look toxic. And I am concerned about that. And I mean, there's nothing I can do about it, obviously, but read filings, man. Read filings. It's boring.
I'm gonna build on a couple of things that Ryan said.
Hopefully
add some value to the OTC here and the investing community. Number one, so I got 4 things I wrote down here. I want to kind of go over. There's less than 5,000 companies on the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange combined. There's 15,000 on the OTC. So there's more breadth in the OTC. There's more to pick from in the OTC. There's obviously a lot more garbage too. Not saying, by the way, that there's not garbage on the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange. There's a lot of garbage there too, guys. I think we're at the point in this capitalistic society in America specifically where, you have the oligopolies at the very top. You got your Amazons, your Walmart, your Facebook, your Metas, your Googles, kind of, holding on to all the capital and all the market caps. And then there's the rest of us, right? There's basically everything else kind of vying for whatever leftover capital. But keep that in mind when you're sifting through the OTC, that there's a lot of choices that you can pick from. And that being said, I kind of want to touch on a couple more things. One, OTC sitting at the low with no volumes. So I'll tell you, I'm 42. I bought my first penny stock when I didn't know what I was doing at 18. I'm 42. I still don't know what I'm doing. Just to be clear, if you think you know what you're doing, get out of the OTC right now. Like if you think you have a grasp on everything that's going on, just get out, because you're lying to yourself and you haven't figured out that you don't know most of it. But when I was 18, 19, I bought my mom had a portfolio. I knew enough not to risk my mom's portfolio on it. And I think she gave me $10,000 in her name. It wasn't for me. I was trading for her. And I think I spent $9,900 on blue chip stocks. And I took $100 and I bet it on a penny stock that had a licensing agreement for Betty Boop chocolate, because my mom loved Betty Boop. Like, she's a huge Betty Boop fan, right? So I buy the $100 in penny stocks. And then I log in a couple weeks later and it's, worth 0.001, right? The $100 is poof, it's gone. Now I come back, I want to say 8 months later, and the $100 I had put in had turned into like 300, something like that, right? If I had bought when it went down to 0.000, I would have been up just a crazy amount of money. So it taught me that the first lesson that, what goes up sometimes comes back, what goes down sometimes comes back up. That's not always the case, guys, right? But right now we're at a point in the cycle in the market where there's a lot of things sitting at the bottom. And if you've listened to me in the past, I've always said, the OTC is one of these markets every 7 or 10 years. It runs with the macroeconomic market. So the last run we saw was during COVID when they printed all this money, right? The e-commerce boom, same thing happened. So when there's a macroeconomic run in the markets, when the real estate's going up and the Fortune 500s are going up, you're going to see the OTC follow. And if you haven't bagged up before that, it's going to be too late. So keep that in mind. That's my second thing. Third thing, I want to touch a little bit on the M&A and these mergers and these acquisitions. Ryan put out a great tweet today. It was like, dude, it's not happening. Go look up his page to see the tweet. I'm not going to tell you what he said, but basically, he's cautioning you guys on investing in some of these companies that are touting, $100 million acquisition, $500 million acquisition. Well, I agree with what Ryan's saying. And, after being in deal structuring and the legal side of it, understanding that an acquisition of a company from a public co, when a public co says we acquired a company, most people think, well, they just bought the company. But there's literally 1,000 variations of legal structure that you can acquire a company. Okay. Now, traditionally, what happens in the OTC, not all the time, like I said, there's 1,000 ways that they can acquire it where it says that they're acquiring it, but they're not really acquiring it. Right. And then this is kind of a little bit complex. We're getting into like law school stuff here, but I'll give you a basic, example of this, right? You have a parent organization that's trading on the OTC. They find a great prospect making $100 million. Why the hell would that company sell? To number one, right? Let's be logical. Okay, well, maybe they want an exit. A lot of times what legal's going to do is they're going to draft an agreement that has an option to buy it, right? Or they'll say, look, we'll report revenues under the parent. We'll report revenues under the parent, but we're not going to own you. So for example, you got, Nick Incorporated at the top. He buys Ryan Incorporated making 100 million. He buys Buffalo Fireside Chats making $1 million. This parent corporation has no revenue, literally nothing. Ryan is still making his money. He's keeping his money. Buffalo Fireside Chats is still keeping his money. Meanwhile, the parent is reporting all this income. They don't have any money. They didn't make it. There's no bank account here, but they're reporting it. And the idea is traditionally that this parent company can now eventually go take out a loan because on their taxes, they have this filing and they can eventually buy these guys out. Traditionally, that's how that worked. Very rarely does it work, though, in the OTC. It almost never works. And a lot of times what they put in, they can take right back out. So, I just want to double down on his cautionary statement about be very careful about these guys talking about acquisitions. The same way they can acquire them, they can take them back out. Just because they acquired them doesn't really mean that they acquired them, because the legal standard of acquisition, the way they write the contracts up with option agreements and divestitures, and it just doesn't mean what it means. So, and a lot of times they're not even disclosing the acquisition agreement. They'll say they acquired it, and then you look at their filings and you don't see the agreement, like where they actually acquired it. If you read the agreement. So if you're cautious, I would call the company and say, show me the agreement that says you acquired it, because that'll give you more in-depth insight into what does the acquisition actually look like. We did an acquisition 3 years back that was basically an option contract for 3 years. And if we didn't pay them in 3 years, everything reverted back to them. So we could say we acquired it. We can show the revenues under our company, but the acquisition really didn't take place yet. So be super cautious there. I'll let you catch it.
Sometimes these acquisition deals will have language that allows the company that's been acquired to exit if the parent company is unable to come up with just like some ridiculous amount of money, and that's how they do that. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to.
No. It's a great point,
because good stuff right now.
Most of these acquisition contracts have loopholes to get out. That's the way they write them, right? And most of the time, they exercise those loopholes after the pump is done. I won't go into any specifics, but I would definitely say be cautious. I agree with Ryan there.
I think that explanation. I think there are so many people, especially in this community, that were longing for an explanation like that. And there's a lot of people that are probably going to look through old filings for certain companies.
Yeah, listen,
I think that's great. Yep.
It happens all the time, right? And by the way, in traditional M&A, it's a great strategy. If I can get 3 companies to report under me and then take out a loan as the parent company and buy them all out, it's fantastic. It generally doesn't work, though, when you have smaller OTCs. So, and then the last thing I want to cover is something me and you talked about yesterday, is CEOs and the scam CEO. I'm putting this in quotation marks, okay? So there's a lot of CEOs out there that you'll see that, start a venture, they try something, and then they disappear, right? And then 6 months later, they might pop up under another company, right? Understand that some of these guys, pure scam artists, but some of these guys are just an entrepreneur trying again. When you see a successful entrepreneur that's made it, whether it's Elon Musk or Zuckerberg, these guys are on their 3rd, 4th, 5th iteration at a company. It wasn't their first try. So the messaging I'm trying to get across here is be very careful about judging, because it's very easy to say, this guy's a scam artist. He tried it and then he disappeared, and now he reverse split the stock and he's trying something else. That could be very well and true, but it doesn't mean that he's not trying again and doing the right thing, and he may just succeed on the 2nd or 3rd try, right? A lot of the CEOs I've seen, it's their 2nd, 3rd, 4th try at something, and then they pop. So I'm not defending the CEO that disappears. I'm not defending someone that's trying. I'm just saying be conscious, because when I was in my early 20s, first starting in this business, I'd run into somebody and for sure I thought it was a scam, And then 2 years later, the thing is skyrocketing. And it's because I was in my very limited mindset saying to myself, well, that business model didn't work. And because the guy pivoted into a new business model, I just assumed he gave up on this other thing. So keep in mind that CEOs do move around. And just because they knocked down one company or reverse split a stock or started somewhere else all over again, doesn't absolutely mean they're a scam, right? It's a possibility that they could just be trying again. And remember, the best CEOs are on their second, third, fourth iteration. They're not on their first iteration. If they won on the first time, dude, that's a rarity, dude. That's super rare. If you look at just go audit the billionaires list. All those guys were like 4, 5, 6 times in a business. So be cautious, always be careful, only invest what you can afford to lose, in the OTC. That should be a benchmark standard, disclaimer for everybody. And, have fun, learn, and just keep learning. I've been in this industry 20 years now, and I'm still learning, dude. I'm still going through the filings, and every, week I learn something new. So I hope that helps. I hope that, some of that story helps.
Yeah, right on. Jord, and that was a great segment, both of you. Jord, why don't you cap it off with advice for 2025? But this is not financial advice.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, we could hear you.
Perfect. I switched microphones. I think probably specifically for me being a non-trader, an OTC investor, the single most important metric is the management team, kind of to piggyback off of what Nick was saying. I invested very heavily in 3DX because of, Nick Coriano and Roger and the team. And the more that I got to know them, the more comfortable I felt with my investment. And I would argue the same thing is true for the ILS team. Unfortunately, in the OTC, when there is no volume, that everything's struggling. Everything, no matter how good the play is, I think it's like 2/5 of the normal volume, and significantly less than what we had in 2021. But if you believe in the management, if you believe in the company, if you do your due diligence and you hold through till the next, cycle, whether that be 2 years, 3 years, traditionally they kind of go in blocks of 7. I'd had a ton of success. I've talked to Nick Coriano before about it. And that basically what I do is I invest in undervalued OTC companies that I have faith in. I hold them for a few years. The market recovers as long as the company was able to stay solvent. The price goes up. I have my long-term capital gains locked in. I sell the companies, and then I take that money and I put it into real estate. After, let's say, the next 4 to 5 year cycle, then I have enough equity built into the real estate that if I either need to take a loan or sell the real estate to rinse and repeat and to go back and have money to buy the stocks again, I can do that. I think that the two major issues that people have in the OTC is not having a plan and changing strategies. You can't buy a stock and then have it go down and then all of a sudden pivot to being a long-term investor. That's not how it works. And I think that the second one is that you have to lean into your talents. Not everybody is going to be able to see and perceive things the same way. So if you're really great at, reading financial statements, then obviously you can put the majority of your effort there. But what you want to do is invest in yourself and then try to figure out the other aspects of it. One of the strengths that the BFC has collectively is through networking and talking to different people, different CEOs, different businesses, is that you constantly get a new input that you have to assess and say, okay, hey, is this guy good? Why or why not? How do I feel about the business model? How do I feel about their financials? Most of the time in the OTC, these things are unknown or garbage. You have to believe in the vision and believe in the management team that they're going to be able to overcome that and or add equity value, in the future. One of the nice things about the place that we're in right now, mind you, it's not the share price of most of these companies, is that since 2021, so many of the plays that people were in the OTC they're no longer, they're insolvent. They weren't able to make it. So when you see these companies that are still, keeping their heads above water, even if it doesn't necessarily seem like they're doing as well, because, you know, the broader market's up 20% or cryptocurrency's up 7,000% or whatever it is that this was always part of my plan. I bought this company companies because I thought that they were undervalued for the time. And when we go into the recession that I believe is going to happen, the only thing that I know about cryptocurrency is that it's not a hedge against inflation. It's going to tank just as much as the broader market is. And I see you there. But if it still tanks afterwards, it doesn't really serve me the purpose that I would really like to have it for. It's not a reason to not invest, buy it, or make money with it. But I do think that the recession could potentially shift the allocation of resources into the OTC, because if people are not making money in crypto, of course they are right now, but if they were not, or if the broader market slows down or starts to revert, they're going to be looking for those deals, and the deals are usually in the places where it's undervalued.
I got a hard out at 7 o'clock here, guys.
You got it. Well, I was going to take you guys out anyway. So I want to thank you guys. Nick Coriano of Triple DX, Ryan Shadell. I want to thank you guys for giving us updates. George, thank you for sharing your experience and your advice. Thank you guys. Have a great night.
I appreciate it. Have a great evening. Thank you.
You got it.
Thanks, Ryan and Nick.
See you guys.
What a great segment. I know, but this worked out pretty nice. That he had the heart out, but that's all right. Nick is a moving, grooving guy, man. And you know, it's great to have them on and hear the updates. We're going to be doing a lot of updates with a lot of CEOs this year. Are you ready to get this party started?
Oh, I was born ready.
You were born ready, man. All right, so we have a lot to get through, but I'm gonna try and keep it brisk because I know like we're already going on an hour-long show. So I have about 35 slides to get through and a couple companies that really we've covered regularly on the show, but I sort of want to talk about where we're at. So let's get this thing started. I did put out a poll earlier. How many millions of ILS shares should I buy when it hits my price target? Imminent soon. Stay tuned, OTC. And my goodness, at least 39 people called me a fool. But hey, I'm having a little bit of fun. But I don't know what I'm going to do. It all depends if it hits my price target or not. So that was a fun little poll I put out. And I have no problem being a fool as long as I'm a correct fool. So let's get moving and let's talk about a couple things here. And we're going to take these AREC. All right, so this is an exciting one that recently it was down at, you know, all right, so we have the yield sign is still on. They're going to get everything in order there. I firmly believe it. Right now it's sitting at dub 38. A couple weeks ago, it was dub 2. And so here's what bumped it up actually to almost a penny. It went to dub 8. CGRA signs merged with American Infrastructure Corporation, a subsidiary of NASDAQ-listed American Resources Corporation. This is a little snippet from that PR. The company will have the necessary tools to execute its business plan, including a strong asset base and the team experienced in structuring transactions in the $150 million to $250 million range. The company will emphasize organic growth and strategic acquisitions to rapidly enhance its value for potential uplisting. All right. And remember the word potential there. So we did hear that news and I didn't pull up the chart on it, but like I said, it went from, you know, right about where it is now. I bought in at dub 4-1. It did go to 8. I did not take profit. I should have. I thought it was going to go up a little bit higher. I did think it was going to break penny on that news, but I'm still holding nonetheless. So in regards to like, what's your take on the CGRA deal?
I mean, to me, I can't say that it completely caught me off guard, but I obviously wasn't expecting the move that it made. I know that we privately and then also in the BFC Discord discussed, I think it was 5 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, basically saying, hey, you know, now's probably the time to start buying CGRA. Nobody really is paying attention to it. There's a lot of unknowns. It didn't necessarily have a clear path forward, and there just wasn't a lot of filings going on. And the only thing that we knew was the connection to a management team that I personally know and trust, you know, the Nick Link. And so I said, hey, you know, let's buy a couple of these shares, and we did. And then, you know, weeks later it went up 120%. Now that only matters if you sold, you know, right, or if you're a trader. But I think the big takeaway for me is how all of the Nick Link plays are connected. And so it really is a testament to how quickly they can close and as a proof of concept and show one of these companies up under the NASDAQ. And I was thinking about it right before we started the show. I don't know if they ever announced that they had an acquisition lined up for CGRA. I know they did for ILIS, QIND, and for DRCR. I don't remember if they ever announced it for CGRA.
I don't believe they talked about acquisition. I know that they were talking about mining. They were talking about getting results there. And I know that they had Savage Barbell on there. So I think this is a pretty unique one because, here you have a big board asset rolling into, and this company did it before, by the way. They did it before with another one of their subsidiaries. So I think this is different compared to anything else that we've seen with the link stocks. So we're gonna see how it takes place, and we're gonna see if they're successful with it. But I know I did not hear anything in regards to acquisition for CGRA.
Yeah, and so with all other things being equal within the Nick Link plays, I would argue that most of them are probably below their even current value, even though, I think all of them are relatively struggling from the standpoint of share price, which obviously makes it difficult if the company's trying to raise money and they have to sell shares, because then you have to sell even more shares to raise the same amount of money. There's also notes in the differing companies that are becoming due, and then, the whether or not they're paid or not paid, and then people are being issued more shares, and that's driving the price down. I see CGRA right now as like I own shares. I'm holding them. I haven't sold any. I'm kind of waiting right now before I acquire more. I personally am putting my money in some of the other plays we're going to cover, but I truly still think even after the surge that it had before, that I will probably put in some limit orders, GTC limit orders for significantly lower than it is, just to see if I can get them to fill.
Yeah, mine as well, right? Let's keep this thing moving. We got a lot to cover, and we're going to cover all the link stocks first. So we got QIND and HTOO, Fusion Fuel and Quality Industrial Corp. And so, chart wise, here's where the big closing announcement was made, and it tapped out at 10 cents. It was batted down immediately. And so we're sitting back here, and this is one where I got in at 274. Got real nice entry. My average is up at 4 cents. I had no problem averaging up because I like what they're doing in regards to the share exchange plan. But unfortunately, they made the announcement, and here we are, a retraction. And one thing that I'm going to get better at, on these pumps of the day, I guess these day pumps, I'm definitely going to start taking a little bit more profit because, it doesn't go straight up. And I got to remind myself that have I done that in the past nicely and taken my profits? Yes. But I got to remember, even if it's a long-term hold, I got to take advantage of the way the market's responding to news, so that way I could, one, secure profit, and two, get more shares, because these are stocks that I like, and you guys know that. So there he is, JP Backwell, their most recent news, and they're pink current. They're sitting at, like I said, 4.3 cents. It's 4.3 cents. Fusion Fuel closes on 1.28 million senior convertible notes and 25 million equity line of credit. Share exchange imminent. That's what we're waiting for, just like George was just talking about. We want to see one of these deals close because it's going to really set a precedent. And so I broke down the latest filing with some tidbits of, I just covered it here. So you have the 1.28 million convertible notes secured. Fusion Fuel successfully closed the 1.28 million senior convertible notes. Private placement providing immediate capital to support operations growth. 25 million equity line of credit. The company secured a $25 million equity line of credit, offering significant financial flexibility to fund future strategic initiatives and expansion. Strengthen liquidity positions. This capital infusion boosts Fusion Fuel's near-term liquidity, ensuring financial stability and enabling the company to pursue key growth opportunities. And flexible capital access. The equity line of credit allows Fusion Fuel to issue up to $25 million in shares at its discretion, subject to regulatory conditions, giving the company the ability to scale operations efficiently. And here is a couple more points. This is people want news, people want substance. This is what this is. And when you get to a big board, guess what? You get big funding, and this is where they're at. They would have never been able to secure this in the OTC. So, strategy. Support for core business growth. The new funding will bolster Fusion Fuel's profitable El Shola gas business and support the launch of Bright High Solutions of the Bright High Solutions platform, driving long-term growth, strategic initiatives advancement. The proceeds will strengthen the company's balance sheet and provide working capital to advance key strategic initiatives, positioning Fusion Fuel as a leader in the energy services sector. In leadership endorsement, of course, right? CEO JP Backwell highlighted the significance of this capital raise in enhancing Fusion Fuel's operational capitals and creating long-term value for stakeholders. So this is a step in the right direction. I know people like me, I know George's probably sick of hearing it because every time I go, I'm like, when are they going to do this damn share exchange? I want to get it done because we're excited because we're going to reallocate and, the parent company's ILIS. And so I'm like itching for these companies to like get the share exchange done. But like we all know, these things are a process. They take time. And the truth is, the people that are running these stocks, it could have ghosted a long time ago. There's a clear vision, and they laid this out in the shareholder meeting. Have I had to pivot a little bit? But listen, the subsidiaries, joking, are all still there, minus the defense one. So they're still sticking to their plan, but they're navigating all the ways to achieve that plan. So any comments on? I know you mentioned a little bit of it, but your vibe with QIND. I know you feel pretty good about this one because let's be real, Jordan. If they execute the share exchange, anybody that buys down here is going to be a winner because it's based on the valuation, and and if it goes to their approval, you're going to make money on it. Plain and simple.
I mean, yeah, I agree, and trust me, it doesn't ever bother me when you and I talk about it. Where it really bothers me, and again, it's kind of like what we touched on with Nick, is if somebody goes into investing and they planned on being a long-term investor, that you have to be ready for this. You have to be ready to lose all your money. You have to be ready for the stocks to keep going down, especially in a bear market when it's been happening for 2 years. I don't know why anybody's surprised now. These things have been moving down for 2 years, right? That you have to be prepared for it emotionally, psychologically. And I think that's probably the hardest thing for newer investors because it's not easy for older investors, right? Or more experienced investors. But the key for me is that half of this deal is essentially done, right? QIND has already exchanged their shares, which is wonderful because it gives us an opportunity, even though they haven't announced what the equity conversion would be for the rest of the shareholders, is it gives us a jumping off point, right? And so I think personally that we're within a month or two, right? And when I say that, I mean the announcement, the details. I don't mean necessarily that everything's done because I don't know if there's going to be a lockup period. I don't know if it's going to be immediate. I don't know any of the details. I'm in the dark like so many others. But if you look at the moves that they're making when they issue the PRs, which again, because it doesn't move the share price, people aren't nearly as excited about it. But to me, I just see them, knocking down things that have to be knocked down and building up things that have to be built up. And so when they announce that, to me, it's going to act as a proof of concept. And I think 3 things are going to happen. The first and most important one is that because it's a share equity conversion, and for however many shares of QIND you own, you're going to get X amount of shares at HTOO at whatever value they're currently worth, that the current share price doesn't mean that much to me, except from the standpoint of I want to buy a lot more because I paid more for my shares than what it's currently at. The second point is that when they do the exchange, everybody is going to be piling in to the other Nick Link plays that have the widest discrepancy between value and market cap. I think CGRA had a $2 million market cap before, and after the share price tanked, I can't even imagine. It might be at 500 or 600,000 right now. I'd have to go look, but I think that they're going to surge into those other plays because we have a very large group of people that are invested. I think that they're just gun shy right now. They have a lot of money invested. A lot of people are down a lot of money, and so they really just want to make sure at this point that before they put any more money in, that it's a guarantee, or it's guaranteed that something can be. And then the third point is after this happens, I really see ILIS now as like a BCE AD situation, that their plans albeit probably, pretty grandiose, and they were trying to do some pretty amazing stuff. It started in a much different time period, and it's just not feasible now. They don't have the money to grow. They don't have the money to put it into, the dozen or so companies. And so they've had to make those difficult decisions about where to best allocate their resources and how to best do that. From the interviews with JP, he has said multiple times that every one of these companies has an acquisition lined up. I'm personally hopeful that QI is still on the table for QIND. There's no reason to think that, other than a throwaway comment that JP made in a video, but he basically said that it's very difficult to acquire these companies on the OTC because any one piece of paper from 7 years ago can stop the process. Once you get up into the NASDAQ, it's a lot easier. And so when they canceled QI, I thought, hey, there's a chance. With all that being said, I think if we hear news in the next month, of which you and I have discussed multiple times, the end of December and the first week of January was dead. Nobody was doing anything. So we're really kind of starting now, that I fully expect to hear something by February. I'm hoping for faster. And then when that happens, I really think we're going to see a surge of interest because there's already a lot of shareholders. There's just not a lot of people buying.
And just imagine, because I know we're going to keep it moving, but I want to say, like, imagine if QI is still on the table and they're able to roll that into QIND pre a share exchange. That's going to go much. And right now we're thinking it's going to be in the 20s. Now, right now somebody pegged it at like 28 cents or 29 cents, which is great from its current levels. But imagine what that additional value is going to bring to the deal. It's going to be substantial. But right now it's about sticking out the toughness here. That these tough, when it comes down, when it's up and all right, it's dropping in price. All right, so you talked about conviction before. Well, what do you do when it's down? If it's good, buy it. You didn't say those exact words, but I mean, that's a no-brainer. I bought it at 4. I bought it at 2. I bought it at 6. So why would it, if I believe in it, why wouldn't I buy it when it's down here? Let's move on to SAML. So, right now we know that this is the plan for their ERT sector, their subsidiary, their emergency response technologies, and this is where Bullhead, Georgia Fire Rescue, Firebug. This is where all this is going to lie. Right now, we don't know what's going on with it, and so I'd love to know right now. If you look at SAML, here's your board of directors. It's Nick and JP. Their reporting status, SEC reporting. They're audited. And yes, they have 7.5 billion authorized shares, but look at the market cap is under 1 million. All right, so for me, this is sort of the dark horse. George, you and I were talking about this. Like, it's held at DTC is 900 or 90 million. We're talking about 250,000 outstanding shares. This is not a lot. And if they tap the right deal, this thing at these levels, anything like around a penny or under, in my opinion, is going to be huge, especially if they're structuring it something like QIND. Look at its levels, and if they're able to bring in and have that valuation done, and you're going to get 29 cents per share, or if they have another acquisition, because they mentioned that they have, like you said, different acquisitions for each subsidiary. So, and look at it. Who wants to go skiing? Woo! No, I'm just kidding. Yes, it's not a pretty chart. Yes, it sucks. Hey, I started buying at 2 cents, and I've been adding and adding and adding. I still have a 1.5 cent average here. So am I going to probably buy more of this? Yes, because eventually, they're going to come out with their plans. They're going to come out with an AK. We're going to figure out what they're doing. So the story remains to be written on SAML. So as much as it kills me to look at it, and I'm in the Discord, and you guys know when I'm like, man, and trust me, it sucks when you see like your long-term investments and just like, man, just getting pummeled, and you're like, just complete a deal, freaking please. I have to remind myself that a lot goes into it. And remind myself that, when I reach out to management and send an email or I have a question, they get back to me when they can. You know what I mean? And so when I ask them, hey, can you answer these questions for the show? And I give them 20-something questions, and they respond to all of them. When I say, hey, and trust me, they're not going to be on the BFC every week. They're not that type of company. When it matters and they could give some substance, they come on. Do I want to have them on again? Absolutely. But the story remains to be written here. So this is ad zone, the chart is just downtrending, so we don't really know where the bounces are. And guess what? There's it's a wide spread with this stock. So sometimes you're 10 points, 20 points off the bid and the ask. So let's move on to what I think is in regards to an eyeless investment and a link play. One of the beauties of these in all 5 of them. I know, Jordan, you like this too. I mean, like, let's just think about this right now. Looking at the chart, this isn't crazy downtrending. We're waiting for the completion of the deal. All right. And I'm going to have you comment on this, Jordan, in a second. But, it bounced off a 7.75. And here we are. And you do see, I wish I had my lines drawn, but I pulled these charts up quick. And so, it could very well be downtrending. But I think that what is going to trump that is news. And I think, doing that share exchange agreement it won't even matter. The chart doesn't matter if they're able to close that deal at the valuation that they presented. And right now we have it pegged at $1.50-ish right now. So there's a lot of negotiation that happens there. And I just want to remind everybody, and this is the tough part. This is the part that as an investor, I'm like, damn it, what the hell? That the original binding term was for October 31st. The amended term, she extended this to November 22nd. Here we are, January 16th. So I understand why a lot of people are frustrated. George, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think just like everything else, there's a couple of things. The first one is that these plays are linked, pun intended. ILIS owns, ILIS shareholders own 20% of the outstanding shares of DRCR on their books. The second part is most businesses and business people in general are just kind of, especially in the OTC, are not always the most savory people, right? Like maybe they're more concerned about their own personal wealth than maybe creating a company or doing this and that. And so when previous deals from other companies don't go as planned, I think it's very easy for people to blame one side or the other or both. If you're Team ILIS, it's like it's obviously the other guy's fault. And if you're not so sure about ILIS, it's the other, maybe that they're the problem. But in this case with Coach Heck and the synergies between, SGN and DRCR, I just see it as being seamless. Now, of course, there could be other things going on, but if both of the parties are completely, on board and they want the merge to happen to this and that, and it still hasn't happened, I think that is a really good indicator to let you know that anybody that's been involved in these situations, they don't happen overnight. You're waiting to get to a step, and if that step doesn't pass or fail, then you can't move on to the next step, right? And so it takes time. And so when they actually announce it, to your point, that the discrepancy between its current share price and its perceived value in its filings and all the deals that they're making and the revenues that they're making is astronomical. What was it, 150 million in revenue? And so it gives people an opportunity. And then just to kind of comment on that last slide before my other point is, yeah, it might not look good to the people that have owned SAML for 3 years, myself included. I did a private placement close to 2 cents. But all of a sudden, boom, if you're looking at it now from the actual metric of it's, got a market cap of $1 million, if they make an acquisition of a company that's worth $500,000, you still increase the value of your play by 50%, right? So to me, in a perfect world, I'd like to see DRCR actually uplist onto a larger exchange first. I think that will immediately bolster ILIS's position, whether they decide to sell, use it as collateral to borrow against, whatever their plan is. And I still can't wait to see what it is because it's outside of the box. And everything that we're seeing right now is very much inside the box. That I really think that DRCR is going to be amazing. So much so, in fact, that I've stopped buying most of the other plays. And for the last 5 or 6 weeks, most of my money's been going into DRCR.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. Love hearing your thoughts. And I do want to ask Penny Champs. All right, he goes, talk to us about CNNA. Is this dead forever? It's dead until it's not. So we've seen companies come out of expert market. We're gonna see what happens. It's if I'm looking right now for you to see if this has PQE status. It does not. So it's not like you could even buy this on Speed Trader if you wanted to. It's sitting at dub 32, but you know what? That's one for I know there's a lot of you guys that are invested in that one. So I hope it gets current, and I hope that you guys, it's on the watch list. It's on the BFC watch list. So hopefully we get a chance to sit down with management and see what the heck's going on. And, we'll go from there. So let's keep it rocking. Now I want to talk about AITX, and I got to give a shout out to Steve Reinhardt because, I did the beta test for AITX for their RadCam. And so they sent me the new one, and I was actually supposed to put this up last weekend, and I got caught up. And so I just wanted to show you guys, and I'm not going to do a whole review because we have a lot to cover. We're covering a lot. This is a great way to kick off 2025. But yeah, no, it's packaging. The presentation is great, just to show you guys, like it's excellent. When I put it up, I'll actually I'll share that with you. I'll share the experience. But I will say, for the actual beta test that I did, there's so many features. The app is great. The software is great. You could tell that Steve, and this is why I want to say, you talk about the OTC and companies that are sort of like sketchy and stuff. He's consistent. The company's consistent. Their optics are great. They give weekly updates. They actually just did an update yesterday. They dropped it. And go on their YouTube and watch it because, man, they have their team talking, and it's just a breath of fresh air to see that and see the transparency, and they're heading in the right direction. And we're going to talk about the chart in a second, but so yeah, I really like what I'm seeing from AITX, and kudos to the team and congrats to them. So right now, this is highlights include quarter-over-quarter revenue growth of 30%, and so they talk here about they're going to drop their the AITX YouTube channel, drop the investment broadcast, annual investor presentation. So make sure you get a chance to watch it. I'm actually going to show one slide from that because I think it just goes to show where they're headed. And they did talk about debt today. And you know what's even cool about that? Not only did they do the video, today they released a summary of the video and all the speakers in that video. So make sure you check their website. Like I said, they are always on the go. And I know somebody's going to be like, dilution, trust me, but you got to fund these companies. You got to fund the dream. And so, but he did talk about addressing the debt. So that is a breath of fresh air if you're an investor. And I'll talk about the trade opportunities with this one as well. Revenue growth for 9 months ended November 30th. AITX recorded revenues, 4.2 million, representing a 213% increase over the 1.3 million reported for the same period in 2023. This impressive growth reflects the continued market adoption of AITX's innovative AI and robotic security safety solutions. So total revenue for the 3 months ended November 30th, 2024, reached 1.7 million, a 30% increase compared to 1.3 million in the prior quarter. This marks the third consecutive quarter of strong revenue growth, showcasing the company's robust demand pipeline and the effectiveness of its recurring revenue model. And so it goes on to talk about operational milestones. And so, transition to fourth generation platform, enhanced capabilities, reduce hardware weight, faster production times. And so what I will say is, and by the way, and that this I think is a major thing, the RadCam, it's available on Walmart.com. It's available on Amazon. So if you're an investor, if you're somebody that's been watching the stock, purchase the damn product and try it, to see how your money is being spent, see where that investment's going, see if you're happy with the product. And guess what? They're a transparent company. You could email the team at AITX and be like, hey, I got your product here. Maybe try this. Or I really like this. You will give them feedback. They'll reach back out to you. Very transparent company. And I look forward to having Steve on and talking AI. It's always great having him on. And if you look at this is the one of the charts that, I mean, this presentation they did was packed. Absolutely packed. But they use 3 different models for their projected revenue, for the recurring revenue. And even their conservative model is looking very decent. And so I think that, and they said very conservative model. I think that they're going in the right direction. I think the biggest beef with AITX now is the share structure and the dilution and the debt, that whole spiel. And if they become profitable, if they increase their revenue, if they're increasing their network, if they're getting their products on Amazon and Walmart and all these different platforms, then guess what? I think that they are going to be in a strong position to be on a big board and uplisting, in 2026 with minimal damage to the retail investor. So now in regards to, how to trade it, right now you could see where it bounces. And so that's what it's been doing since last fall. It hits the mid 2s and then it just bumps up, does like 70%. Boom, drops down. You could gain 30%. Boom, here it is again. You're making more than 100% there. So look for these trends and look for how they correlate with news and the events and their communication. So there is a lot of opportunity. Now, what's going to happen here? We don't know. We'll see where it settles. Maybe it's a good time for a buy in the twos, upper twos. And then when it runs, take your profit. That's how you could take advantage of a company in a bear market that is still, like George said, management's communicating. They're accessible. They're putting out content. You can purchase their products, and they have an office. They have they have a facility. You could go there. The guys do, he goes and presents to people. So that's a great way to take advantage of it if you want to make some money, double your position. Any thoughts on AITX, George?
Yeah, I mean, I love Steve Reinhardt's. I very much enjoy the AITX as a play, and it really fits into my strategy. They've got products, they're increasing their revenues, they're increasing profitability. When they get to the point of catching up where they're making more money than they need to sustain themselves and alleviate any more need for dilution, being at a 52-week low of the share price is only going to help, right? So the people that buy, average down at these levels, hold to the next cycle, which, because their business is legitimate and making money and is able to stay afloat, that there's the potential to make huge gains on the other side. Is there risk? Tons. Is there a whole bunch of things that could happen between now and then? Absolutely. If we go into a historically significant recession and it takes 12 years for anything to really, get a good purchase and start making money, it might fail. But I would argue that I want to be in the nascent beginnings of these companies and exactly the place that they're right now, where they've bypassed most of the hurdles or at least gotten over them. And while it was difficult, while it added dilution, while it added debt, they do have a viable business. So now it's a question of how viable can they make it. With Steve and everything that I've seen him do, I have the utmost confidence.
Yeah, product launch CYBL. I really got nothing here. They had a great shareholder update. The CE's gone. They're tradable. They're in the black, which is great. And so let's just look at the chart right now. Here we are. CE came off high volume days. This was one. I took a little profit up top here. I should have taken more because I could have tripled my position, but you can't predict the market. You gotta do what you gotta do. I'm still holding a lot of shares for this one. And all the alpha investors are holding many, many shares, but now their shares are available, which is great. And so I see a consolidation happening here. I hope it's not downtrending. I hope that they have news soon because, with them being, in having profit and their books look great, they know they got to address some debt issues. They have a lot of notes, a lot of restricted shares, and we need news to get some volume into the stock. So I honestly think, and I'll tell you right out, I think this could be a 10-cent stock. I think it could be a 25-cent stock with the right news, with the right DOD moves, with the right contracts. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. And I'm just going to finish with this. I'm just going to say Datron. That is the company. That is the acquisition that is going to position them to get these global contracts and these government contracts. And so we're going to see what happens with this one. So definitely still holding and continuing to watch on the BFC list. And I honestly think it's settled here nicely because I liked it I bought it at 114. And so, like George was saying, hey, bear market, good plays down. And by the way, Speed Trader people made out really, really nice, especially people got dub 12. So, yeah, and I will say right out, yeah, when you look at the comparables of other drones of others in the drone sector, CYBL is way undervalued. And I think this thing's going to go through the roof at some point this year. I do. That's just me. So we're going to see what happens. And I hope Mark Schmidt and his team make that happen. About XRP. Anyways, just kidding. All right. So there's no denying the excitement that's building behind XRP. And I'll say look at this. You know, I just pulled this real quickly, but earlier, I'm not sure what it's at right now. Let's see what is it at right now. I could tell you what it's at right now. All right, so it's at it went down to $1. No, I'm just kidding. Jeff's gonna have a heart attack. Just kidding, man. No, but in all seriousness, it looks great. It's yeah, man. It's just such a cool excitement building behind the inauguration coming up and the SEC changes. So yes, for me, I'm waiting. I have some XRP, not much at all, not anything to make a significant difference in my portfolio. But I will tell you, I'm waiting for some consolidation. I wanted to get it here. I put some powder elsewhere. It is what it is. I've learned just to be a little bit more patient, but I do think there's time to get into this because I think it's going to be huge. Let's talk a little bit. The SEC lawsuit history. The SEC sued Ripple Labs in 2020, alleging XRP was sold as a security. SEC is always ruining the fun. A 2023 ruling resulted in a $125 million penalty, significantly less. And it's funny because reading Ripple XRP, they offered 10 million as a settlement, and they obviously said no, which was pretty funny if you look at that. Significantly less than the $2 billion sought by the SEC. The appeal was filed. It was filed yesterday. Do I think it matters? No, I don't think it matters, and this is why. I think the incoming administration has a lot to do with it. Let's go through why I think. All right, President-elect Donald Trump's administration is expected to reshape cryptocurrencies policies at the SEC, moving away from the stricter approaches of Biden. All right, the SEC commissioners Hester Pierce and Mark Uyeda, I think that's how you say it, known for crypto advocates, are set to push reforms, including clear guidelines for classifying cryptocurrencies as securities. The expected policy changes aim to foster innovation and provide clarity in the digital asset space. Pierce and Uyeda, with their history, I'm laughing at myself with the pronunciation of that word, with their history of supporting less stringent crypto regulations, are preparing to leverage a Republican majority at the SEC. And think about it. When we trade these meme coins, there's no notes converting. There's no market makers. Yeah, there's people that just dump. But I mean, like, there's opportunity. There's liquidity there that isn't in the OTC right now. Here's another thing. Outgoing SEC chair, Gary Gensler. All right. His tenure saw 83 enforcement actions against crypto firms, criticized for stifling innovation. Paul Atkins, Trump's SEC chair nominee, is seen as crypto-friendly, but his formal appointment awaits Senate confirmation. And I've been watching the Senate hearings, and so they seem to be moving pretty smoothly. Typical politics on both sides. You know how it is. Optimism grows among crypto enthusiasts for a supportive regulatory environment under Trump's administration, focusing on transparency and fraud prevention. So I think there are going to be some safety mechanisms in place to help people. The balance between investors' protection and fostering innovation will be closely watched as the new SEC leadership redefines cryptocurrency regulation in the U.S. And so I think that XRP is here to stay. I think this is going to see a surge. And will this be one of those things like in 2 years that's sitting at $1,000 and we're all sitting here like, I should have bought it. I remember covering it at $3. You know, I do plan on sinking some more into it. And I'm not going to lie. I was sitting there. I had some cash and I said, do I invest in SGN or do I invest in XRP? I chose SGN. And looking back, I wouldn't have done that. If anything, I should have put it towards DRCR because put my money where my mouth is. You know, where is the value? But keeping it on XRP, I think it does have a bright future. And when this does happen and when this surge happens, people are going to make a lot of money. And what do they do when they make a lot of money? If they sell and actually pull their profits, which many people do. And by the way, there were $341 million buys of this. Wrap your brain around that. In 24 hours, there were $341 million buys. Somebody's playing and somebody's not putting in $1 million or $2 million or $3 million, $4 million, whatever it is to make a few. They're trying to make a lot of money because what I think is going to happen is this. This is going to be a mainstream thing. I think the price is going to continue to crawl up all year. You know, what's going to happen next? I'll tell you what's going to happen next. You're going to see the XRP meme coin platforms surge. Sort of like we saw with Solana and what's happening with them. The meme coins are going crazy over there. Well, I think the same thing's going to happen here. And the volume on these platforms, you know, even like looking at First Ledger, we're going to talk about that in a second, but it's a fraction of what it is. So I'm positioning myself. I'm going to talk about the meme coin, the XRP meme coin that I love. So yes, XRP, it's going to be freaking awesome, and I can't wait to continue to watch it. It's been really fun to watch. A lot of you guys in the Discord got in at 35 cents, 40 cents. You were loading and taking advantage of all the BS that was happening with the SEC. So kudos to you. Some of you, I know, Jess, Lisa, Arlex, all you guys are you loaded the hell out of it, and now you're enjoying the ride. So I hope that you get rewarded very, very nicely. But I want to talk about BGXR, Schemes XRP. Now, this is one of those meme coins that's on First Ledger, that's on the XRP based platform. I think that we're going to have a significant amount of volume and interest in XRP meme coins, just like we've saw with Solana and their platforms. It's bound to happen because go back to my point. When people make a lot of money, what do they like to do next? Make more money. And so I think these platforms are gonna increase. I truly do. So let me get to a couple points on this. And this was actually brought to me by the Kraken. And and by the way, he's been really, really awesome leading the community and taking some initiative. There's a great a leader group there. And so, get on the Telegram. Actually, just go Beast Games XRP. Check them out on Twitter. But right now, they have website improvements. Steady enhancements are underway, even without a website building expert. Progress is being made. It's a community effort. It's going to be great. New contestant announcement. A new contestant confirmed via DMs will engage with the community postseason. Their big win promises an exciting story and engaging Q&A for members. So, and I want to let people know this. There are actually members that were actually a part of Beast Games, contestants that are in the Telegram. And when all said and done, and by the way, these guys are under crazy, stupid, strict, they'll kill you and your family NDAs or sue the pants out of you. That's the truth. At Jason LA, I talked to him and he actually read the NDA. Ask him in the chat. This thing is like no messing around. So these people will not get paid if they share anything about what happened during the show. So once the show's over, these guys are going to engage. And what's the coolest thing is that not only are they going to talk with us, but hey, they're going to have a second season on this. So, and I talked about that down here. And so Discord admin search, actively looking for a passionate long-term holder to manage a fan group. We're actually talking about launching a Discord, and we're going to offer 100,000 tokens to the person that wants to run that Discord and run that fan group. So that way Beast Games fans can have a Discord and a place to go. And obviously this is going to be a good platform for Beast Games XRP. And we're looking for meme creators. And there have been some great meme creators in the community. So actually, I just posted one that was made for the BFC for our mentioning of this tonight. So we're looking for meme makers. We're looking to really build this community. And we're doing 200 giveaways. Project Success. Weekly giveaways of 50,000 tokens. 2 winners have attracted new members, some of whom are influential power players. There are some really, really good traders and people that hell, Super Robots. He's in the Beast Games leaders room. So it's great having him on board. I know the Kraken's there and Major Gain season there. There's a lot of people that are joining the Beast Game. So and by the way, I will say there's only 100 million coin. All right. So think, and it's sitting at like trip 2 right now, right around there. It bounces trip 1 to trip 4, trip 1, it bounces around. But think of your greatest low float without any restricted shares, without any market makers, and 100 million coin. 100 million coin. That is it. And so I think this thing's going to see pennies. Truly do. Easily. And so, we're talking about market collaborations, discussions with XRP community influencers, Jack the Ripper, and he's boasting 350,000 followers. And we're talking to him about market strategies. And, the Kraken is personally funding for marketing ads. And so, including Dex boosts and ads, increasing viability. I'm going to have a couple people from the team actually in the Discord to talk to my BFC peeps and share what they have going on. And yes, Bella, that is true. It's not just XRP, it's XLM too. So yes, going to be stuff. It's going to be awesome. Good stuff here. And so, yeah, so this is their token giveaway. They're giving away, you got to get a wallet. And honestly, this was the XRP setup for me was the easiest I've done so far. And so I know I'm going on a crypto rant, but it was the easiest one I've done. So very happy to be a part of the team. And I hope that you guys nail it. Here's the chart. It had that initial launch and it didn't drop dead. It's just lingering here. Right now it's at trip 2. we're going to see what happens. I'm adding down here. I'm going to slap along the way once this puppy gets going, and I'll be liquidating appropriately. So I'm going to be watching this. I watch it every day, and I think that, you know, it's going to catch on, especially because it's relevant, especially because contestants are actually involved in the community, and we're going to hear firsthand how that goes. And there's a season 2, so let's pump the hell out of this thing, right? So I'm all right. Moving on. I want to talk about a couple more stocks, and then I'm going to go to closing remarks with Jord. And I do want to do this one, IGBK, Junfeng Wang. Yes, I want to talk about the chart here. Look, and I did tell Long Bully Stick this. I said I like 3. He goes, nah, it's 4. But hey, 3 has been solid support. You know, either way, it's had solid support. That's all right. I was going to crack a Vikings joke, but I will not. Because I was actually rooting for the Vikings. I'm just saying. So I feel bad for Sam. So yeah, I mean, he's literally, you know, he's been on this one, and we covered this when it was trip 7. I mean, what a run it went on. It was my best trade of 2024. And right now, you know, we see that you could draw a line right there. Like I said, I should have made some markings, but I think we see a great consolidation here, and I do think we're going to see an influx. And what are we waiting for? We're waiting for the name and ticker change. So I'll get to that in a second, but this is clean. All right. This is just for the quarter, 16.8 million, and the profit from operations could be higher, 331,000, but you have total assets, 5.5 million in assets. So this is an excellent, the financials here are great. They really are. And so I know that, like I was saying before, here's Long Bully Stick. It is not official yet. However, today's discovery of the name JFHE, digital e-commerce, appearing within Schwab's website now totals, all right, 8 financial institutions and websites showing the new company name. Schwab, Fidelity, MSN, CNBC, Financial Times, Investing.com, RBC in Canada, TD Bank in Canada. All right, so are we ready for the name and ticker change? We absolutely are. And so I hope this thing runs to high hell and you guys make a lot of money on it. Just make sure you take your profits. All right, can't say that enough. All right. Oh, and by the way, they don't have any convertible notes. They have no promissory notes. None. Woo, baby. All right, let's move on to our final stock of the night. I want to talk about SFWJ. I have not forgotten about this one. This is my cannabis pick for 2024 or 2025. And I will say, that's not to say I'm not going to cover other cannabis companies, because I do think that, you know, even there is a Republican administration and Trump's president, I do think we're going to see some headway being made for state-to-state marijuana commerce. So I think that they are going to make some progress on that. And so we're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens and how the administration tackles it. I don't think it's a worst case scenario, though, especially if it's going to be able to bring revenue and taxes in. And so, all right, there we are, a little picture of the beginning of their operations. Follow them at Medcana Company. And so right now, held at DTC, 106 million. Outstanding shares, less than 500 million. So rate the market cap of 5 million. So there's room for growth on this one for sure. And, you know, it's just, they're going to continue to expand their operations. Very excited about it. And Medcana subsidiary in Colombia enters negotiation with Australian firm for pharma cannabis supply. And I actually had a conversation with CEO Gabriel Diaz earlier. It was a great convo, and there is so much supply. And so their challenge right now is to get funding basically to, and Germany is a big, they want their product. They are going to be a big consumer, and they're looking, demand is high in Germany. All right. So this one, this agreement is projected to provide between $100,000 to $200,000 in monthly revenue once operations begin. And so, and by the way, what they've already planted has already been sold. All right. That's already been sold. It's already accounted for. And so they are going to have the market for it. And the margin on this is unbelievable for cannabis. So I think this is going to be really, really, it's going to be a nice play. Is it going to dip below a penny? It will. But like, if you look at, let's see, this was the year, you know, this is where it's just been hovering, you know, boom, boom, boom. It's just like right around that penny mark. And so we'll see what happens. I have 1 million shares of this. we'll see where it goes. I'm rooting for these guys, and I want to see them expand their operations. And it's not really. I'm not concerned about oh my gosh, descheduling in the United States, because their customers are elsewhere. They're in Europe, they're in Australia, and they're based out of Colombia, and their farmland is unbelievable, and they have access to water. So this is a good sign for this company. So keep it on your radar, and you let me know what you think. I'm gonna get to the chat one last time before we wrap things up, and let's see here. I hope you guys enjoyed my new background on my slides. I'm trying to change it up for 2025. And so we have, Chris Giordano, HRO has been quiet. We'll see what happens. We've covered it, and we've covered it extensively on the BFC, real nicely. And so, we covered it when it was trip 5. They had the filing issue. We got it to dub 3 is where it went. And so it's exciting. That's exciting stuff. So I don't know. That's it. I mean, like, Jordan, your thoughts for tonight. Oh, did I lose Jordan? See, Jordan fell asleep because I was talking about cannabis, I think. But let me take a look at the chat. 39 people watching. I don't think anyone is buying it. On one platform, you're on the YouTube. You got to get on X. 385 viewers. I know some people are like, you got to do just YouTube. No. I actually love the X platform. I like that I get to communicate with you guys. So, is Jordan back? Wait, he's back. Boom. There's 2 Jordans. We're doubly smart.
It is.
How's it going, man?
That would explain the echo.
Yeah, your closing thoughts for our first show for 2025, sir.
Yeah, so I think 2025 is going to be the year of the BFC. A lot of the plays that we've covered, even though their share prices are low right now, I think that they've been making incremental, steps towards increasing revenues, decreasing debt, and just growing in general. A lot of the plays that people look at, we see 2 polar opposites right now. Cryptocurrency's on a tear, and people. Maybe it goes up 5 million% more, maybe it tanks 50%, and then people are going to either be really happy they bought or really happy they sold at these levels. Conversely, in the OTC, most of the people that had, a bunch of shares before and didn't sell, which I am one of those, you're one, it's very easy to be down on yourself and say, man, I should have sold it when it was higher. But without knowing what the future holds, it could just as easily go 500% higher than it was before, right? And so without knowing the future, I think the most important thing is to pick the plays that make the most sense for you. For the one that you just covered, if you see that, even though I'm traditionally a long-term investor, if you see a play that you want to invest in and it keeps bouncing off a floor, let's just say it's a penny, and it just keeps bouncing off at a penny and it goes up to 20, 30, 40%, it makes sense in that play to be a day trader, to set GTC limit orders and buy at a penny and sell at 115 or 120 and make your 15 or 20%. And then after you do that 2 or 3 times, you can either decide to just leave those shares and then actually be in a long position for free, or just to continue the process until you're literally using their money and it's not even your money that you're doing it with anymore. It's really, really helpful to have these discussions. I wanted to thank Nick and Ryan for coming on, and everybody else that comes on and is part of the BFC. Steve Reinhardt, you, Rob, obviously the iList Discord, and all the people that contribute to every one of these stocks. The difference today as opposed to 20 or 25 years ago is that dumb money is becoming smarter. We have access to more sources of information. We're learning, and with Discords like yours and with the iList Discord, it allows people to learn, I think, a lot quicker, because you'll have dozens, sometimes hundreds of people, interacting and constantly adding their 2 cents, usually from a perspective of their expertise. And so getting to hear from people that specialize in real estate. I love talking to Nick Coriano about real estate. Listening to people who specialize in the OTC or in crypto, that they all have things to add. And so I think the most important takeaway from 2025 is keep learning, keep growing, be a part of something. If it's not this community, form your own community. If you don't like the stock tips that you're getting, then go out and start your own channel, because the more voices that we have in this space, the stronger we're going to be.
Amen to that. Mats, I love going back and forth with Mats. Cheers, Mats. I hope you have a great night. And I want to give a shout out to every single one of you guys, everybody that's a part of the BFC Discord, and the community, the YouTube. If you're watching on X, if you're watching on Facebook, thank you guys for making this a great show. I'm very thankful for you, and I'm excited for what transpires in 2025. And George, thank you for joining us. Thank you to our guests, Ryan, Nick, everybody you mentioned. You covered all the ground. Shocker, right? Shocker. But all right, and we're gonna let's see. And no more comments. All right, we're good. We're good. We had this was a damn good show. It's a damn good show. So I'm gonna finish it by saying, you know the phrase, right, Jordan? There's more that binds us than breaks us, and I believe that. So you guys have a wonderful night.
One day closer.
That's right. One day closer. And peace out, guys.